Kay and Jeff from earlytrauma.com. We've been covering the TDCs, the trauma disrupted competencies. Today we're going to do object relations. Before we do that, Jeff, why don't you give us that introduction to the TDCs?
Well, the TDCs, what we call them, is trauma disrupted competencies, and these are things that do not get mastered at an appropriate position in life. And these competencies, if they're not mastered, become sources of problems later in life. So what we've done is we've clumped these things together, and the value of it is it gives us a way to look at all the children's problematic behaviors with a way that we can intervene and help the child grow. It's a identifier of a motivation for the poor behaviors, other than the dreaded "you suck" message, which we're trying to avoid sending children.
Yeah. So far we've covered the negative internal working model, which are the three beliefs that I'm a bad kid and adults can't be trusted and the world's not safe. Then we moved on to developmental delays. Last was emotional response, and today is object relations. And we've joked about it for years when we do presentations that this one should be renamed the value of peekaboo. It's really where just that simple activity with your child really helps the brain master this one piece of learning.
There's a reason why everybody plays peekaboo with babies. And what we don't realize is that peekaboo sometimes is a very traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the baby's face when mom goes away, when you cover your face, they're stunned, they're alone in existence for a moment there. And then when the mom takes her hands away and she appears again, wow, then it's I'm not alone, I'm together with. And what object relations is that tendency to be able to hold a picture. Object permanence. Object permanence is that ability to hold a picture of something in your head, even when it's not in your perceptual field.
Yes. And then there's object constancy. So are you the same person? When you go away and you come back, are you different or are you the same? It's kind of count on you to be that same consistent person. So in object relations, we have two pieces. Permanency, are you permanent? Are you there even when I can't see you? And are you constant? So Jeff, think about a baby, a child that doesn't have this object permanency in particular, and mom goes away. How scared that child is, and if mom doesn't come back.
Well, we talk about that ability of children to leave the parents' direct side and to walk out into the world.
To go explore.
To explore, to find out new things about their environment.
Mm-hmm.
But what's necessary for that is the child needs to be able to hold a picture of the mother in their head when they're out. Sometimes, it starts a couple feet, and then it's a couple more feet, and then a couple more feet. Next thing you know, we're yelling at them to get off the road. But they hold that picture and they keep looking back.
Yeah, it's
and checking out.
Called checking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have an infant that's able now to have a little bit mobility, whether they're
Mm-hmm.
setting up and crawling, and they turn their back to you, they're going to check. If they're moving away and they're on the other side of the couch, they're going to check.
And oftentimes they check in
Mm-hmm.
when they're about to do something that they're not completely sure of.
Yeah.
I remember my own sons, reaching out to touch something that they weren't quite sure they should be touching, and they look back.
Yeah.
And they give you that look. And what we don't realize is they needed that developed sense of object permanence to even do the look back.
Right.
And while in toddlerhood it's represented in the physical world,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a lot more powerful. This sense of holding someone in your head becomes a lot more powerful later in life when you're evaluating
Right.
the right or wrong decisions.
Yeah, all of us in high school say, "Oh, I can't do that. My parents will kill me if I do," because they hold that image.
Yeah, we use that picture of them in our heads to help make that decision about, is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Right.
The words, though the words aren't always there, The words are, what would my mom want me to do here? What
Yes.
would my dad want me to do?
Yeah.
Very powerful
Well,
development.
and it's really the building of conscience piece too. We're not going to take time to go into that. So that with permanencies, are you there? And are you constant? Are you going to be that same person? You know, we all have different moods, different emotions. And so moms are going to have different ranges of affect, but their typical response to their babies is going to be within a range that of consistency.
What kind of things disrupts object permanence in a developmental environment?
Well, so often with the families we've worked with is the parent goes away and doesn't come back for whether days or hours, long periods of time, and the baby truly is left alone.
Or with somebody else that depending on their
it.
age, their brain can't recognize as another person.
Yeah.
So that inconsistent presence of the caregiver makes acquiring this picture, this internal picture of existence without perception, very difficult to master.
Yeah. So, and then with constancy, and I think this has been really helpful when we've worked with parents that have addictions, is they are not the same person when they're taking drugs or needing drugs or coming off drugs. There's this whole range of different persons that the baby is trying to deal with, and it's very disrupting. Are you the same mom that I had this morning? Are you a different mom than I had yesterday?
Well, drugs and alcohol in particular, but I mean, I could use it for any addiction.
Oh yeah.
You know, even your personal one, workaholism. It exhausts you.
Yes.
So then the child has this different experience of a parent when they're full of energy, valued, or you know, wanting to connect them, or at the other end of when you're exhausted. And with drugs and alcohol, that's just magnified 100 times. You know, and it's not just high or not high. There's also jonesing for the drug, and there's coming down off the drug. You know, so when you have a parent who's using drugs to medicate their emotions,
Right.
okay, they really have very radically different presentations to that child.
You know what else is disruptive is domestic violence.
Yeah.
So whenever, you know, mom's there and the partner's not around, that mom may be presenting as, you know, happy and engaging, but as soon as she hears the car pull in or somebody walk in the house, she's going to go into fight, freeze, or fold.
One of the principles we work on is that brains prioritize fear.
Yeah.
So when you have a parent brain that has an extremely intense fear experience, that taking care of that fear is going to become number one in that parent's mind.
Right.
And when that happens, you know, taking care of Junior is no longer number one.
No.
And the child can perceive that, you know, and it feels to them sometimes like this is a completely different person.
Yeah. Where did my mom go? She was here and present and playing peekaboo with me, and then all of a sudden she's gone, and she's in this fright state.
Yeah. Imagine playing peekaboo, and your mom presents as one thing, and then you know,
in the midst of the game.
yeah, then she takes her face away, and now she's terrified, and
Yeah.
you know, that's how object constancy is malformed.
I want to mention here, we haven't talked about it for this video, but I want to mention for our audience to find on YouTube the still face experiment. And it's such a short video,
Powerful.
a couple minutes, where the mom is engaged with the baby, and then mom's face goes flat. And the distress that baby goes into in just a short period of time, and the fear, and it really helps you see the power of mastering this object relations as a parenting tool. And we'll go into interventions later, but it's so important when we're working with traumatized kids to recognize that they probably don't have object permanence or object constancy. And you know, which leads me to, and I don't know if you have many behaviors on this one, but I know that particularly one of the girls I worked with, she was a foster girl, give or take 12 years old, and it was a new placement, and the foster parents came into session one day, and they were just so complaining about this girl that every time they walked in the room, she says, "Oh, hi," and they said, "We were just in the kitchen."
Yeah. I had a pastor one time that said the same thing when she walked past the early education room.
Uh-huh.
There was this one child that would go, "Hello," like it was the first time she had seen her all that day. And if she walked back 2 minutes later, it was the same exaggerated response. "Oh, hi."
Yeah. Yeah, so it's
Inability to
hold that image.
Yeah, to hold
It
that
is.
image that they're there.
Yeah, so
I'll tell you another one
what's that?
that where I've run across this is I've run across object permanence problems with children who have difficulty sleeping at night.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And the way it was explained to me is it feels to them as if they cease to exist.
We had that one little girl who said, "I'm afraid that when I go to sleep, I won't wake up."
If they don't have that ability to sort of lose perception of themselves and then gain it back in the morning, then it becomes terrifying and they have a hard time getting to sleep. And when they do get to sleep, a lot of times they have nightmares
Yeah.
because of it.
Well, that's such a fear state. And then the kids that don't hold that image of the parents are permanent. And you know how many of our foster kids that have been in numerous placements and they really don't have a permanent image of a caregiver, they go into their old survival skills. It's like, I'm alone in the world, I have to take care of my needs.
And those choices, when I have to take care of my own needs, I have to take care of my own fear without a caregiver, those choices are radically different from the child who knows I can depend on a parent
Right.
to keep me safe.
And I mean, you can track this all the way down to kids that are hoarding food or sneaking food at night. It's like, well, nobody's here to take care of me. I've got to do it myself.
A lot of times children make the transition into a school setting and they it seems like they can't obey simple rules.
Yeah.
And what they're missing sometimes is that picture of a mom in the background going, "You need to obey this rule." When the mom's out of the picture, or when they don't have a solid picture of her,
Right.
it really is a 50, how should I obey this rule or not obey this rule?
Right. Right.
So all of these things are impacted by that ability to first hold a constant picture of somebody, and then make sure that picture is the same across different presentations.
So, well, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about object relations. For us, it was a game changer in many areas because there were these behaviors we couldn't pinpoint the origins of. And now, continue watching the next video. We're going to talk about interventions.
Yeah, wouldn't be worth being a TDC if we didn't have interventions to address it.
Yeah.
So catch us next time.
Yeah.
Earlytrauma.com. If you want to leave a comment, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.